it's Julia. This week I have been working on 3 different sewing themed templates or designs for decor. Now I put them into frames that I picked up at the flea market, but they can also be put on a pillow or maybe a mini wall hanging or even like a quilt block. Like I said, there is 3 of the different designs. The first one is sewing, the art of looking for what I had in my hand 2 seconds ago. Who can relate? This one is just a stitching calms the soul, which is just how I feel about sewing. And the last one is, if you see me with a seam ripper, now is not the time. I will link down below the PDF that I have in my Etsy store. It comes with the instructions and pictures, and also all 3 of the designs in 2 different sizes. One design will fit into the 8x10 frame, and the other design would fit into the 5x7. Also included in each of the designs are the words only. I use this if you just want to run the words through your printer, and I will show you that in the video that I'm going to be doing. We're going to be making all 3 of these, and I'm just going to show you the techniques that I use to do it. All the techniques are a little bit different for each design, just giving you some options on how you might want to create with these. I hope you enjoy this. Let's get started. My thrift store sells the larger frames for $1 and the smaller frames for 50 cents. I'm going to leave the blue one blue, but I want to change these black ones to white. I'm using just a chalk paint by Waverly. I'll list all my supplies down below for you. And I just use a sponge brush, and I put a couple lightweight coats. I just find that covers the best. It dries really quickly in between the coats. For this first one, I'm using the larger design, and a muslin that is tea-dyed. And I can see that design right through this. I'm just using my heat erase pens and tracing those words on. I just traced the words, and I want to add the stitching to it. I do have fabric for the applique, and I picked 2 different colors of embroidery thread for the design. I'm using 2 strands of the embroidery thread, and I'm just doing a back stitch. I'm not the best at hand stitching, but I really love the look of it, and I'm trying to improve on that. Just doing like a little back stitch or an outline stitch to get these words on. I just love the homespun look, and that's what the 2 colors look like. I wanted to share my hoop. This is a 7-inch tension hoop. And I really like this even for when I'm at my sewing machine. It fits underneath my pressure foot, and if I need a little bit of tension on my fabric, it's a great hoop for that. I'm on to do my little appliques. I do have my appliques already reversed for you. The orientation is reversed, so it's easy just to trace. And I'm tracing on with my Heat and Bond Light. This is just a paper adhesive. I trace on the paper side of the adhesive and then iron on the back side of my fabrics. I'm just rough cutting these out, and then I fussy cut. I'm just using my little Frisker shears for this, or scissors. It's a 5-inch scissor that I use. And just getting into that little spool hole there. I know, piddly, that's what I do. And now I can also see the design right through this, and so I can just lay those pieces on in the right spot. And then we'll be ironing these into place. I'm putting a warm and natural batting on the back side. This is just a cotton quilting batting. Just adds a little bit of stabilizer to it. It gives it that quilted look. I'm going to be using my free motion stitching to stitch these into place. Just going to outline them. I'm using black thread here. If you don't want to use free motion, you can certainly do a zigzag stitch for this. Going over my design twice. and then just finishing the top of this spool. I'm changing my thread to a cream color to match the background, and I'm going to just add some more stitching just to give it more of a quilted look, just doing a spiral, kind of a loopy meander stitch, and just framing the design. I have some dyed buttons, and I'll link that video down below for you as well. I dye them with alcohol ink, but they just match this so cute, and I'm gonna just add that right onto my design. I'm at my sewing machine. I just love sewing my buttons on with my sewing machine. It's quick. Now for the second one, I'm going to be using the smaller design for this one. And I decided I'm going to just run these words right through my printer. To do that, my favorite technique is to use my shipping labels. And I use them more than once. These I've used a couple times already. I just stick them back on the original piece of paper. And I just press these down. It's the exact 5.5 or 8.5 by 11 size that I need to run through my printer. Just cutting my piece down now to the correct size. And I just ran it right through my printer, so those words are right where I need them. Now we're on to the itty bitty little pieces for my little applique. There's not very many of them, so I'm just going right through it and getting it done. And again, just ironing on the back side and cutting all these little pieces out. And then just using my photograph there, or my PDF, just for a guideline on where I want those pieces. And then ironing those into place. And that also is going to heat set that ink. This isn't a washable project, but that does help with especially black ink. Black ink is usually quite permanent. Mine is on my printer anyway. I'm just going to use a stabilizer on the back. This is a tearaway stabilizer. You can also use like an interfacing. I just need a little extra when I sew. And again, just adding some stitching to that little applique. Just doing an outline stitch and adding some detail. And for the letters, I just go right down the center. And then I don't break my thread. I just go from one to the next. And that one is complete. Now the last one, I'm using the larger design. I have my Warm and Natural batting on the back, and I'm going to be using my Solvay for this one because I cannot see through this little background. It's like a little floral print that I found. And this is such an easy way to add your design to onto your fabric. This Solvay is completely water soluble, so it'll completely dissolve in water after I'm done. And I'm just using my Uniball pen to trace these words on. I'm going to also trace the seam ripper, and I'm going to free motion stitch this entire piece. Got it all down. I'm just going to get it where I want it on my piece of fabric, and then do some pinning. Back to my sewing machine. Once again, I'm going to be using black thread. Now this one, I am going to break my thread between my words, and I just do a little back and forth motion when I start and finish. I'm just basically writing with thread. And going right through that Solvay or that water-soluble stabilizer. Just outlining that little seam ripper. I'm going to be adding color to this. to remove this now, I'm just cutting the big pieces away, and you can even tear them gently. You don't want to distort your stitching at all, but and then what's left of it, I'm just spritzing with water, putting a paper towel over the top, and then just ironing over it. And then all that extra will come off onto that paper towel. Just might have to do it a couple times just to get it all removed. Then I like to feel it to make sure it's all gone. I'm going to add color with my Inktense blocks, but any kind of even like fabric markers or acrylic paint would work. Use what you have. I used a green for the handle and just a kind of a gray for the actual blade of this seam ripper. I kind of wish I would have just added, instead of the green, added pink or like a coral color maybe for the handle. But there is a little bit of green in the leaf on this floral print. That's kind of why I went with the green. And we've got that one finished. I wanted to share how I put these into the frame. I'm just using a fabric tack glue. I'm spreading it out, and then I'm going to add some school glue as well, just to make sure that it stays attached. Spreading that out, and then smoothing my piece on top, just centering it, and then trimming away anything on the back that I don't need. And just popping it into that frame. I'm going to stick the glass in first. This one I did add a little bit of trim on the bottom, a little bit of vintage trim. Just really like how it turned out. And this one I did not add the glass because of the buttons. It has a little bit of dimension. I hope you enjoyed this, everybody. It was just a lot of fun and a great way to decorate a sewing room. I've got some pictures at the end. I hope you enjoyed this. Have a great week. Bye for now.